Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put sunglasses on. It's a little bright out here. Hey guys, Holly J here, aka Planet Ginger, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please be sure to hit that subscribe button as it really does help my channel. Today, we are going to talk about brainstorming your writing projects. This is something that I wanted to talk about. I am currently in the trenches of draft 1, and I have kind of put a stop to my drafting process because I want to give brainstorming an outline the attention I think that it needs, as I'm kind of stuck in my first draft in the midsection of not really knowing where I want my story, not where I want my story to go, but what I want my story to accomplish. So that is going to be the gist of today's video. I'm going to give you the 5 tips that I have been utilizing lately for my brainstorming process so that you can maybe get some ideas for your own brainstorming in your writing. It is such a beautiful day here in the PNW. The sun is shining, the birds are out. It is chilly. Don't get me wrong, definitely chilly. Not only is it a nice day because of the weather, but I'm gonna show you guys my shirt here. The Seahawks are playing today. It is a playoff game. I have been a Seahawks fan for forever, and it is so exciting thinking about us potentially going to the Super Bowl again. I'm really hoping that'll happen. If it doesn't, today is gonna turn from a nice day to a not so nice day. So Seahawks, you better win. In case you were wondering, the Seahawks did end up winning. That being aside, let's talk about brainstorming. If you have been writing for a while, or if you know anything about the writing community or just processes of writing in general, you will know that there are basically 2 different styles of writing that people generally use. You have your plotters and you have your pantsers. I have been a self-proclaimed pantser for as long as I have been writing, which has literally been since like 6th grade for me. I just have never been an outliner or a brainstormer or a plotter in general. Usually I get an end point and a beginning point, and then I just kind of go from there. But that is where I always run into problems, because then I don't really know what I need to accomplish in the center of my story, which is why I have taken a break on draft 1 of Project Fairy Tale specifically. If you're a newcomer to my channel, you can check out the link up top for an overview of all of my writing projects. But basically, the gist of what you need to know for this video is I have 2 writing projects in process at the moment, one dubbed Project Fairy Tale, one dubbed Project Romance. Project Fairy Tale is my main project. It's also the project that needs a lot more love and attention than Project Romance does. Project Fairy Tale has a lot of moving parts to it. It's going to be a series, so there's a lot of things that I need to keep in mind and I need to know about in this initial novel that's going to impact the series as a whole, hence why I put the brakes on draft 1 and decided that I need to plan. I have come up with 5 big tips that really helped me get more out of my brainstorming process, and I thought I would share them with you guys. One of my favorite videos to watch, honestly, is people talking about the writing process. Tip number 1 that I would say has really improved my brainstorming process is to just write out a list of either scenes or objects or dialogue, locations, or even just like vibes in general that you want to include in your novel. And the reason why I think that this is so helpful is it's just kind of like a brain dumping process. You're not using any structure. You're not even really thinking about like, oh, where is this fitting in my story? You're just saying, I want to include this in my story somewhere. And the reason why it's helping me in my writing is because I do have a lot of ideas that I want to include in my story, but I don't necessarily know how or when they're going to be incorporated. So they're things I want to keep in the back of my mind. So what I've been doing is literally just making a list of all the random things that I want to be included in this novel so that I can take that list and kind of maneuver it to wherever I need or want these things to go. I'll be talking a little bit about the different apps I use also for brainstorming, because I think that that's really helpful too. I think it's in the next tip that I'll talk about that a little bit more. If I can give you any advice for the brainstorming process, and that might sound really redundant to just be like, make a list of everything, but for someone like me, I get very stuck in structure. Like my brain is very structured and it's very systematic in the way that I want to move through things. It gives me that flexibility to just dump all my ideas on a page and just get them somewhere so that then I can do something with it. you know, instead of them all just sticking in my brain. Which leads into tip number 2, which is something I've just started incorporating in my brainstorming process, but I would recommend physically writing things down or utilize some sort of app that gives you free range to move your ideas around. What I have realized when I am in my manuscript and I am writing, sometimes I get in this mindset where like everything I'm writing is like a commitment. Like I am committing to that character, I'm committing to that plot line, I'm committing to their decision making, I'm committing to having that object in my story. There's just something so formal and so decisive about actually putting it on the page and like drafting it. I don't know why. It's just kind of a mental thing that I go through, and I am trying to combat that in a different avenue. When I say physically write things down, I personally do not use like physical notebooks. I actually use my iPad. I will use the app GoodNotes. I will make lists in there. I will brain dump in there. Even though I resisted this advice for a really long time, if you are stuck in the brainstorming process, I really do recommend trying to physically write things down because it has gotten me unstuck on ideas. So that is tip number 2. Another thing is I have been utilizing the app Scapple, which Scapple, if you don't know, is a sister program to Scrivener. Scrivener is more of a manuscript writing and organization app, whereas Scapple is a brainstorming app. Scapple is really nice because you can make these thought bubbles and you can connect to them however you would like. So for example, in Scapple, I have been utilizing making a giant list. I have set up the Save the Cat beat sheet to plop ideas from my list in the specific areas of the beat sheet, which comes to my third point, and that is utilizing the Save the Cat beat sheet. If you are struggling with outlining, this is more of an outlining issue than a brainstorming issue, but if you're struggling at where to put certain aspects in your novel, or even if you're hitting all the important things that you should be hitting in a novel, I highly recommend using Save the Cat. Save the Cat is a very, very popular writing process, and if you don't have the book already, I highly recommend getting it. I actually studied Save the Cat when I was doing a film writing course in college. After that, it got so popular, actually it might have been before that, but I vividly remember it happening after I took that course, seeing this like influx of people using Save the Cat, and then they actually came out with one specifically for writing a novel. And there's a lot of good things that comes from Save the Cat. I'm not gonna get totally into the Save the Cat beat sheet in this specific video. I just really recommend, as tip number 3, if you want a more structured outline to your novel, I highly recommend looking into Save the Cat and utilizing that beat sheet to sort out your list of ideas and to help, you know, get a movement to your novel that is meaningful and that is actually going to impact your readers the most. If you don't even know what Save the Cat is, I highly recommend doing some research on it because there's a lot of benefits to that writing process, in my personal opinion. So number 4, this is more for spurring ideas and creativity, but I highly recommend when you're brainstorming to do something while you're brainstorming. So for example, this could be something like going on a walk and like bringing your journal or your iPad with you and taking notes on your walk. This could be something like listening to music, whether that's a curated playlist for your novel or just some ambiance music. You could literally watch a TV show or a movie, like one of your favorites maybe that you want to take some inspiration from, or like that you really like a character from, or you really like certain dialogue in. Actually, what I've been doing lately is I've been playing video games and having my iPad next to me, and while I'm playing video games, and I'll stop, take note on my iPad of whatever idea comes to mind, and then I'll keep playing my video game. Doing something that is on the creative realm and then taking notes while you're doing it is, I think, the best way to spur new ideas. Last night even, I was watching Teen Wolf. Love Teen Wolf. There was this scene with one of the characters and I was like, wow, that scene is almost exactly the sort of scene that I think my character is going to need to go through. This is not stealing the idea because this character is not going through the same things that this other character is. It's literally taking this imagery from this scene and trying to morph it into my own novel. It's just like seeing a character. Like if you read ACOTAR, you know, how we all complain about how there's all these shadow daddies now that we read about. You can have a shadow daddy in one book and a shadow daddy in another book, and they're completely different, but they still have the same concepts. That's the kind of inspiration you can get from watching movies and watching TV shows, even reading books that you are passionate about or that you get inspired by, and then taking inspiration from those for your own novel. I think that a lot of people get inspiration from seeing things done by other people and then thinking, I want to do something like that, but I want to put my own spin on it. Literally, Project Fairy Tale is going to be rewriting fairy tales. You know, obviously I'm taking a lot of inspo from the original fairy tale. Another thing I've been doing, if you watched any of my TikToks, I've been playing Wizard 101 again, which is such a nostalgic game to me, and I haven't played it in so long, but I've been kind of making a comeback on it. So in Wizard 101, you have these moments when you're battling people where the spells get cast, and I kind of always like get antsy during those moments, and I like want to be doing something. So normally I'm scrolling on my phone in those like intermissions of battle. But instead of doing that, I pulled my iPad out and I was like, I can brainstorm my novel in these downtimes of playing this game. A lot of my best brainstorming time has come from when I played Wizard 101 and when I've been in battle, and then I am writing, whether it's like literally just a creature list or whether it's actual like magical elements. All of that can be used in your own novel to spur your own creativity for your own writing. Again, with a caveat, as you're not just copying these inspirations. Finally, we have tip number 5, and this is to utilize Pinterest photos and boards for your writing. I have realized that I'm a pretty visual person when it comes to inspiration and like remembering inspiration. If you haven't already, and I know this might be really basic advice, but if you haven't already, please make a Pinterest board for your novel. Now, my board for Project Fairy Tale is private, so only I can see it, but I have so much stuff saved in there that I think is so helpful. When I am really feeling stuck in my story, I will go and look at my Pinterest board and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right, I wanted to include that. So helpful when you're doing your brainstorming process. What I have personally been trying to do is to incorporate my Pinterest photos with my Scapple account and to kind of utilize that Save the Cat beat sheet and then have all of my photos that I really like from my Pinterest board on the bottom so that I can drag them in the different sections of the Save the Cat beat sheet so that I am utilizing all the photos that I feel like I want to utilize. This is sort of a similar process of listing your scenes out that you want in your story versus this is just kind of a visual way of doing that to make sure that you are utilizing the photos that you really want to utilize in your story as scenes or inspiration, etc. It is something that has gotten me out of ruts in my story. It's also created a lot of other different ideas that I maybe would not have had in my story if I didn't have my Pinterest board. Although these 5 tips might on the surface seem like, yeah, Holly, why are you telling us these? Like everyone gives these same 5 pieces of advice, whatever. These 5 pieces, I just felt really transformed my brainstorming process, and I just thought I'd share it. We're all in this together as writers, and it can be very lonely sometimes and very isolating. So I thought, I'll share my experience and maybe it'll, help some people with their own struggles in their brainstorming or outlining process. I also want to give a little extra bonus tip and just say it is never too late to brainstorm and plot your novel. I am several thousand words into my manuscript already, and I just felt like I was rewriting these same scenes over and over and over again because I realized I don't know where I want the story to go in the middle part. So I was kind of walking this path that didn't have any guidance to it. And that's when I decided I needed to go back and brainstorm, which is why I took a pause and did it. And I just want to say, it doesn't matter matter how far you are into your manuscript, I always think that brainstorming and outlining is going to be beneficial no matter how far you are into it, because you can never, first of all, double check yourself so much and make sure that you're including all the things you want to include, and that certain characters are interacting with characters well, that certain things are happening to affect other things down the road, etc. So I definitely don't think you're ever going to hit a point where it's like, I can't go back and brainstorm now. That would be so anti-productive. It's always going to be productive, in my personal opinion. Being someone who's already started my draft and I'm going back and outlining, I do kind of wish I would have done this outlining before I really started on my draft. But any writing is good writing, and I still feel like I've learned a lot about my characters and where I want the story to go by doing the drafting that I did. Anyways, I think that's a wrap for today. I am gonna get ready to go watch the Seahawks game. Like I said, I hope we win. If we don't, I am not gonna be a happy camper. So be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Give this video a like if you liked this style of content, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.